Man, I told you I got a lot of Wu-Tang stories, man. There's plenty of stories that come out of the Wu-Tang camp. Wu-Tang, what many people don't know is that everybody, the plan was for everybody to get their own individual deals. Like, they didn't just say, hey, yeah, we like the group. They went with the group idea because they couldn't get individual deals on their own before that. They would have just been lost in limbo. Once they came out as a group, the Wu-Tang Clan, everybody was able to get a deal based off that. They literally became millionaires off of that album. But you're dealing with people who had literally $1.35 in their pocket to having hundreds of thousands of dollars. And it created problems within people who didn't know how to manage money. There were people who knew how to manage their funds, like the GZA. RZA knew how to manage his money. These guys had families. They couldn't afford to not pay attention to these type of things, where the single guys or guys who wasn't doing nothing and was living off of food stamps and everything else, they were basically doing what they normally do every day. So, after the success of the Wu-Tang, the Old Dirty Bastard, he had a record deal before anybody in the Wu-Tang. His deal with Elektra was the first record deal of anybody in the camp. So when he got his deal, as soon as they gave him his money, he blew it right away. So it took him like forever to get his album done because he blew all his money. He bought a raggedy car, and he bought the rest was just blown on clothes and all this other BS. So it took him forever to finish the album. He only had a couple of songs done, and that people really jumped on and did. And the kick of it was everybody helped Old Dirty Bastard write his album. Like Brooklyn Zoo, he wrote Shimmy Shimmy Ya, Shimmy Ya, Shimmy Ya. Dirty wrote that. It's a couple of songs that Dirty did, but those are like Dirty type songs. But the other songs, like the Genius and the RZA, wrote most of his songs. Even Meth wrote a couple of lyrics on that he used. That a lot of these guys then they can't use, because a lot of these songs they did back in the day. And Meth had his old mixtape that he used to have, and guys was taking lines off that. So Dirty and Genius got into it because Dirty wanted some money, and he didn't want to go through the RZA to get it. And so he wanted Genius, because they family, to give him some money. And he was like, man, I'm not finna give you no money, and then they going at it over some money. And it was a situation where he's talking about, my record sold more than your record and this and that. And he was like, man, basically that is a Genius record. I wrote your record. Like, man, are you kidding? I wrote your first album. So after this, he felt like nobody in the Wu stepped up to give him any money to help him out, because his second album was due out again. After the success of the first album, his second album was due, and he was stalling with that, messing around with it. And this album was supposed to come out in 95. 96, he was working on the album. and it was called The Black Man Is God. The original title was The Black Man Is God, White Man Is the Devil. And they wasn't going to let that pass. So the title was changed to The Black Man Is God. And it was supposed to come out in October of 96. Now, where that album ended up was in total limbo. And on that album, one of the songs was the Don't You Know remix. With the safe sex, the unheard version of Don't You Know. And that was going to be remember when he said part 2 coming up on the next LP, and it was the remix. That was supposed to be on the album, The Black Man Is God. And a lot of songs that they had recorded that was supposed to be on that album ended up just in limbo or using other records and other things because Dirty was once again making a mess of himself, going from here to there, and he basically blew up on everybody in the Wu-Tang, had it out with everybody, and this was like shortly after the album was out. You know, after the success of the second album, the only one he really talked to was the RZA, and he barely wanted to talk to RZA because he just needed RZA at the time, because RZA was like his lifeline. But he was done with the Wu-Tang. He stayed with his dudes, Brooklyn Zoo dudes like Buddha Monk and all those guys. When he was just doing drugs and chilling, and he was on the run for a couple of cases because he didn't show up to court. And he was just like, forget that, I'm on the run, I gotta make this money up. So he's touring, doing little shows here and there to make some money and some appearances. And while he doing this, he's working on this album that they doing, that he gotta put out. You know, like Electric's like, look, you owe us an album. I don't care about your legal situations. You better go and finish this damn album. So the album became Nigga Please. And that was it. And they brought the Neptunes in to come up with his hit. You know, and what's his name? Pharrell was banging Khalees at the time, so he thought this would be a good, good track to feature her on. So he put her on Got Your Money. You know that, hey, Dirty, baby, I got your money. So the whole theme was basically Rick James and Dolomite. So the album comes out. It got somewhat success, but there's no Wu-Tang members on this song. None. I mean, on this album, he just no. There's no Method Man. There's no. He cut everybody out this album. Nobody was gonna be on this album eating off Dirty. He didn't want to deal with the camp. So, with that being known, and that being said, it was basically a situation where Dirty was like, look, I'm cool with everybody, but I gotta do me. And little after that, because he was hiding out in Philly, he had left New York, and he was living in Philly, working on his album and doing these little shows and stuff, and he wanted to be away from the entire environment of the Wu-Tang. And then he ended up going to jail. They caught him and went to jail, and the rest was history. But it's a lot of Wu-Tang infights that that y'all gonna be shocked. But I'm out.